Hey YouTube, Kier Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Salamangreat Yugioh deck profile for post the July 2019 ban list. It's actually been quite a while since an update to this deck on my channel. I figured with the latest ban list, which was in July, I was due for an update. I was a really big fan, still am, of the Salamangreat deck. It's actually the deck I use at locals the most, even currently. Very happy with the results of the deck after Salamangreat Gazelle and Salamangreat Circle are put to 1 on the ban list. So doing the best we can to keep the combos going with all the different plays the deck can do while working with just, like I said, the 1 Gazelle and the 1 Circle. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So to start off, for the monsters, we're down to, I've said enough this video, the 1 Salamangreat Gazelle. If a Salamangreat monster is sent to the graveyard except Gazelle, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. If it's normal or special summon, you can send 1 Salamangreat card from your deck to the graveyard except for Gazelle. You can only use each effect of Gazelle once per turn. It's your setup card. It was definitely, justified getting hit to 1 on the ban list. It just sets up so much, being able to send Spinny, Jaguar, or any of the Salamangreat spell and traps to the graveyard to then recycle with Sunlight Wolf. We still have options to search this card, obviously with Circle, which is now at 1, but we have other cards as well, like Signet Mining, that just help by setting up some other Salamangreats in your graveyard with the Send 1 effect. But Gazelle just gave you so much power, not having to waste a normal summon on it when you send a Salamangreat. Maybe one day we'll see it off the list when, scarily enough, we can see something a little more powerful than Salamangreats in the meta. Also running 3 Salamangreat Foxy. This is your searcher. Aside from, Lady Debug, this is the one I always like to go for the normal summon along with Flame Buffalo. When it is normal summon, I can excavate the top 3 cards of my deck and add 1 excavated Salamangreat card to my hand and then shuffle the rest of the deck. And it also has the special summon from the graveyard effect, but you can only use 1 Foxy effect per turn, and only once that turn. So with it, I mostly go for the setup, but late game, I'm either, recycling it back into the deck with my Jaguar to reuse later on, or, if I need that special summon and I have the resources to use, special summoning it to the field for my other summons. The fact that it's a level 3 definitely does help, along with Gazelle for the Exceed summon. And I'm also running 3 Salamangreat Spinny. I really didn't like Spinny at 3 for a good while Gazelle and Circle were at 3. I had it down to 2, but you just need those good monsters to play in the deck. And Spinny, all you need is a Salamangreat card, and you can easily set it up in the graveyard, which then can easily be special summoned back to the field if you control a Salamangreat monster other than Spinny, and then use it to overlay or link summon. Just remember that Spinny will be banished when it is special summoned back from the graveyard. But like I said, just another level 3 when you exceed with it into Mirage Stelio. You don't have to banish it since it's an Exceed material, but this card definitely came to the rescue when the other cards got hit, just as a good resource in the deck. And I've decided to bump up Jaguar to 2, mostly because from my own local experiences, this one definitely did come up where I needed just that option where I would set up Jaguar in the graveyard, and then my opponent would call by the grave it, and then I'd be out a Jaguar if I only ran the 1. Sure, I can't play it for the rest of this turn. I used it, obviously, and that effect for the next turn, but if I have the second one, I can at least, recycle Gazelle with Sunlight Wolf, and then resend Jaguar to the graveyard. Plus, if I don't open up Flame Buffalo or, Foxy or Gazelle, it's just a better normal summon option, because then I can normal summon it and then link into Battle Links and then revive it back if I have another resource in the graveyard to shuffle back for my Link 2 play. There are answers you can do easily with Jaguar, which is why I like to run it at its number in the deck. And I also run 1 Salamangreat Falco and 1 Foul. Foul is just great for the additional summon when Salamangreat is normal or special summon, except during the damage step. And Falco gives me the option to recycle cards back from my graveyard spell or traps when it is sent to the graveyard. So if I have cards like Roar or Salamangreat Circle in the graveyard, just sending Falco to the graveyard can give me those cards back in my hand to use. And then for the non-Salamangreat cards, I run 1 Lady Debug, still 1 on the list. Like I said, they just kept, hitting the Salamangreat deck more and more. But having this card at 1 as well, it just is a great card for the search. Depending on what you add, then you can obviously go into Battle Links with this card, set up your Gazelle play after searching the Gazelle with the Lady Debug. When I can open it up, it definitely does help. But it's another Signet Mining search as well. And I also run 3 Flame Buffalo. I just really like it with the Battle Links play. It gives you the options to then obviously go into Battle Links, get the search, and then the draw 2 off this card as long as your chain links are correct. So, like I said, still a big fan of it just with that draw option, as long as you have the Cyber's card to discard as well. And I also run the 2, what I am actually a big fan of. I used to run this card back in the beginning when I was running Salamangreat, so we didn't have that many cards to run in the deck. But with Backup Secretary, just as another level 3 option to go for Mirage Stelio. That is the main reason why I like to run it in the deck. All you have to do is control a Cyber's monster, especially when my opponent sees my play, and I either have, Foxy set up, they're waiting for the Spinny. So what can happen is I can summon Foxy, send Spinny, special the Spinny, and then my opponent has an answer. Like I know with my locals, there was always that answer for the Heretic link, where they would then bounce my 1 back to the hand, and I wouldn't have enough plays to go for. But if I have Backup Secretary, I can easily special summon it to the field, and then there's my Mirage Stelio play. They thought they, had me there, but I still have the 1 more special summon to go through. And then just for the hand traps, I run the 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Just another good hand trap, which also I would always side out if need be when I'm going up against a deck that just doesn't search or send as much. And also just when my opponent goes first, Ghost Ogre always comes in handy. I preferred this over Effect Veiler in this deck just because of the destruction possibilities to minus my opponent more and more when need be. Plus also just another answer for the non-monster cards that my opponent may activate that I can use Ghost Ogre on. And that's it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 Signet Mining, definitely one of the more important cards in the deck now because of your searches. You just send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard to add 1 level 4 lower Cyber's monster from your deck to your hand. You can only activate 1 Signet Mining per turn, but this is your answer for only having 1 Lady Debug and also just the 1 Salamangreat Gazelle in the deck as well. I know it's a pretty pricey card at the moment, but it definitely does help and is needed for the deck. If you want to play more of a budget version of the Salamangreat deck, you can try, running Signet Backdoor. It's a little more of a slow play kind of card, but, it's just the option if you don't want to put the money down for the Signet Minings in the deck. But it definitely is needed for your searches, that's for sure. And I also run the 1 Circle. I spoke enough about this card being at 1, but it was a searcher. It was a card that could protect your Salamangreat cards. Definitely very, very helpful in the deck, so I am glad that we at least have the 1 to run in the deck. Sad that we don't have any more, but we make the best with what we've got so far for this deck. And like I said, it's a searcher, it's a quick play, it's recyclable from your graveyard with cards like Sunlight Wolf and also Falco. So good income and handy when you open it up early game as well. But you can easily send it with Gazelle and add it back also. And I am actually running 2 Will of the Salamangreat. I like this card at 2. It has actually been a side-out option for a lot of games when I just need a good option to side out against my opponent. But just having this extra card, if I don't open enough Salamangreat monsters, I can go for the Link 1 Battle Links, especially with when I open up Spinny and Spinny alone. I can link with it into Battle Links, use Will the Salamangreat to special summon it back, and go for the Link 2 without having to, obviously banish my Spinny by using its own effect. It gives me that option, and then the additional special summon effects with the link ratings as well. And also just the 1 Salamangreat Sanctuary, pretty standard for the deck, just having it at 1 for the search with Battle Links. It's really all you need. It's recyclable from the graveyard if your opponent does destroy it, but you can obviously protect it with other cards like Battle Links also. And to finish off these spells, I'm just running 3 Call by the Grave, just another handy card because my opponents, especially the ones in my locals, know what cards to stop with the Salamangreat deck, whether it be, when they Effect Veiler or when they Ash Blossom or when they Ghost Ogre. All the hand trap answers, Call by the Grave is there to save me from those plays. And then moving on to the traps, I'm running 2 Salamangreat Rage. It's just another good option card, especially when my opponent has more and more monsters that are unaffected by monster effects, which Mirage Stelio, Heat Leo, you name it, are big answers to a lot of my opponent's problem cards. So I like to rely on this card to take care of those. Just running it 2, I know you have the Gazelle send play, but that send is just not as consistent anymore, sadly, with it being at 1. So I just need more and more options to hopefully open up at least 1 in my hand to use. And I also run the 1 Salamangreat Roar. You can debate if you want to run 2 Roar, 1 Rage, go back and forth. You just have more options with this, since with the Salamangreat Roar, you have to have a Link monster on the field. So if your opponent Kaijus you, you really are out of options then with this card. And then to finish off the traps, I run 2 Solemn Strike and 2 Crackdown to finish off. Just going turn 1, the strikes really do come in handy. If I can get Roar set up, have the strike, and just the additional Crackdown is an added bonus to, take on my opponent and whatever plays they may have going up against me. And then that is it for the main deck. When I move on to the extra deck, I run 3 Salamangreat Duel Links. Definitely the go-to link monster, being the Link 1 in the deck. It searches out your Sanctuary, but just having the graveyard set up with this card as well just helps to protect your Salamangreat cards on the field from your opponent, whether it be by battle or card effect. And it says Salamangreat cards. You can even protect your other cards like Will of the Salamangreat or Salamangreat Sanctuary as well. And I also run the 3 Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. This is your main, I would say definitely main link monster. It recycles your fire monsters in your graveyard. Can't use them the turn you do it, but you still get them back to your hand to reuse next turn. And the spell and trap back to your hand is the reincarnative link effect. So when you get that effect off, if you have Circle or Roar in your graveyard that you already use, being able to add them back to your hand definitely does scare your opponent. Knowing that you can constantly set up the Roar as long as the wolf stays on the field is definitely what my opponent is the most afraid of still with this deck. And for a stronger offensive play, I run the 2 Heat Leo. I think 3 Sunlight Wolf, 3 Duel Links, and 2 Heat Leo is the standard for all Salamangreat decks, just because you can easily shuffle back Heat Leo with Jaguar as well, and then reuse for the reincarnation Link Summon. And for more of the generic cards, I run 1 Hita the Fire Charmer Ablaze. I can take my opponent's fire monsters. If I'm in the mirror match, it comes in the best. But that option for a different fire monster with better arrows is definitely helpful. And I also run the 1 Update Jammer and the 1 Transcode. They definitely do work well together, just giving you the options for your Cyberse monsters to summon out, and then Transcode being able to summon it back out and then get that co-linked effect power boost going on as well. And I also run 1 Nightmare Phoenix and 1 Nightmare Cerberus. I'm just a fan of these 2. If you want to try out Unicorn instead of Cerberus, you can give that a shot as well. And for one of the more stronger Link monsters along with Transcode, I run the 1 Boral Sword Dragon. When I can make it, it helps to just finish off my opponent very quickly. And I also run the Exceed monster, Salamangreat Mirage Stelio, recycling this card back into your deck with Jaguar after you use it. This is your go-to card. It special summons so many of your cards to use. Like I said, it's definitely, aside from the links, one of my #1 extra deck monsters I make. I don't run Violet Chimera. It was more of a side deck option for me whenever I used it, so if you wanted to put it in, I would obviously need to side it along with a few super polymerizations, because that would be the only time I really used it, when I went in up against them in the Salamangreat mirror match. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like I said, I was a big fan of Salamangreats. I'm sure I'll continue to use it at locals for the time being, and hopefully we'll see a little more love to the deck. I know we have some cards in the anime still to release for us in this deck, so can't wait to see them. But until then, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.